Omega-level mutants are some of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe. These 7 mutants should be Omega-level mutants but are not quite classified as them yet. Starting off this list, we have one of the most iconic X-Men throughout both the comics and the movies. He is the true love of Jean Grey, and not only a powerful mutant but a great leader as well. If you are a fan of the X-Men, you definitely know who he is, and that would be Scott Summers, otherwise known as Cyclops. One of the most iconic abilities in all of Marvel's is his ability to fire off powerful beams from his eyes called optic blasts. He actually draws his powers from an external dimension, and thus the power supply for his optic blasts are practically infinite. His power is so immense that he is able to quickly overload Bishop, who himself is a powerful energy-absorbing mutant, as shown when Rogue absorbed his abilities and used them on Bishop. He was once able to even hurt Dormammu with his optic blast, which further proves how strong he is. During the events of Avengers vs. X-Men, he had the full power of the Phoenix Force and became the Dark Phoenix, which made him incredibly powerful. He was able to take on the entirety of the Avengers whilst continuing to destroy the world. That is why Cyclops could and should be an Omega-level mutant. Next up on this list, we have a much more obscure mutant, someone whom many of you may not know about. Monet St. Croix, otherwise known as M or Penance, is a heroine hailing from a wealthy family in Bosnia. Her mutant ability, rather simple, is extremely powerful. Her powers make her a perfect human being in the sense that even her physical prowess are far greater than any human athlete, allowing her not only great strength but endurance and speed as well. On top of this, she also has a healing factor due to her harm-resistant tissues, making her heal almost instantly from damage. In addition to that, she possesses both telepathy and telekinesis on a basic level. She possesses another form called her Penance form, where at first it was her brother who locked her in that form, but now she can use it at will, resulting in red diamond skin and telepathic resistance. The thing that makes her a potential for Omega-level mutant is her willpower, as through her willpower alone she was able to fly at Mach 3 speed. With her abilities, she was even able to overpower an Omega-level mutant known as Omega Red. The next person on this list is none other than the brother of Scott Summers, or Cyclops. Another extremely iconic X-Men who is consistently depicted throughout the comics and plays a large role in mutant history, Alexander Summers, or better known as Havoc, the younger brother of Cyclops. His powers allow him to absorb ambient cosmic energy, which his body then turns into plasma that can be used as powerful blasts. His iconic usage of his powers is generating extremely powerful shockwaves that can hurt even the likes of Apocalypse. His energy-absorbing powers are so strong that he was able to absorb the power of a star, and then use the energy that he gained from that to fight against his older brother Vulcan, who himself is an Omega-level mutant, and even beat his older brother. His control over his powers can be so precise that he is able to take out Savage Hulk by using his powers to beam into the Hulk's brain. Despite being thought of as the weakest brother of the 3, he has proved time and time again that he is not the weakest of the 3 and a mutant who is vastly powerful in his own right. He is also in a relationship with the next character on this list, Polaris. Polaris, or Lorna Dane, is the daughter of the Master of Magnetism and an extremely powerful mutant in her own right. Her powers are depicted in the comics as a beautiful shade of green and definitely one of my favorite abilities to see. Her powers, much akin to her father, allows her to manipulate magnetism. She uses this ability to create force fields, fly, and of course manipulate the metals around her. Her powers are amplified by her emotion and her determination, and she was even able to send an island into space by absorbing Cyclops' optic blasts and Havoc's energy blasts. Her powers are so precise that she was able to choke Iceman by controlling the iron in his blood, which makes her a very dangerous foe if she wanted to be. She could even destroy Sentinels with her ability, completely overwhelming them and taking them out with an electric blast produced by her abilities. She also uses her powers to display incredible feats of defense, being able to block beings like Vulcan, Havoc, and even Monet St. Croix as well, but by far one of her greatest defensive feats is blocking a blast from Mephisto when she was in his realm. The next mutant definitely deserves to be on this list and definitely should be an Omega-level mutant, but simply was never stated to be one. The immortal and most adaptive mutant in all of the comics, Darwin. Darwin's ability allows him to adapt and survive to any and all phenomena thrown at him. His only purpose is to keep him alive no matter what. He doesn't have control over his ability, and he can't choose what powers he will get from his abilities, but they will automatically give him the ability he needs to survive. An example of this is when his powers literally just teleported him away from Hulk instead of giving him some ability to beat the Hulk. Or maybe there just wasn't one. His powers once transformed him into pure energy to keep both him and Vulcan alive, bonding them together, which makes him a pseudo-Omega level just because Vulcan is an Omega level mutant. He once even absorbed Hela's powers by adapting to her touch and absorbing it to become the Lord of Death, allowing him the ability over life and death itself. He was even able to regrow his body when he was in a state of pure energy, which Beast claims to have been impossible, but his abilities still allowed him to do it. Following this, we have a mutant born out of love from two of the most powerful characters within the Marvel Universe, Franklin Richards and Rachel Summers. The product of their love is a mutant named Hyperstorm, or Jonathan Richards of Earth 967. Obviously, the product of two of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe should be Omega level, but he was never explicitly stated to be Omega level. His power is called Supreme Power, and it gives him control over infinite psionic energy he draws from the hyperspace, a fundamental force of the universe. His powers allow him to off-screen Nathaniel Richards and kill the Fantastic Four in literally every timeline. By using his psionic abilities, he was even able to control gravity, the electromagnetic field, and the strong nuclear force. Hyperstorm is extremely strong and a mutant who no doubt should be an Omega-level mutant. The final mutant on this list, we have someone who isn't an ally to the X-Men but rather an enemy. A lesser-known but still extremely powerful mutant with incredible psionic abilities allowing him to do things like teleport and even revive the dead. Exodus, or Bennett du Paris. Exodus was born as a nobleman from France during the 12th century. He later on would join Magneto as one of his acolytes and serve on the Quiet Council for Krakoa. His powers were thought to be awakened by the Phoenix Force when it spoke to him. He was once able to fight with one of the strongest mutants, Hope Summers, who was inexperienced at the time, but he was still able to take her down. His powers even allowed him to easily take apart a Sentinel and block blasts from other powerful mutants like Cyclops and Storm. The special thing about Exodus was that he was stated to be an Omega-level mutant much later on in the comics. That's 7 mutants who should be Omega-level mutants, some extremely iconic and have led the X-Men for decades and others who are newer. Do you agree with this list? Any mutants you would want to see?